All right, so remember I said in the last lecture that Kant gives us this formula of universal law, and it seems to do a pretty good job of telling us what our duties are, but it doesn't do a very good job of explaining why the rules it gives us are so important, right? It doesn't really give us a deeper rationale. It gives us rules. So, it meets part of that challenge I said rules-based theories need to meet. Tells us what the rules are, but it really doesn't do a lot to answer the question, okay, why are these rules important? The formula of humanity is important for a few reasons, and I actually think one of the reasons it's important, maybe the biggest one, is it does a lot better job telling us why the specific rules Kant gives us are so important. And so for the formula of humanity, you have to take a step back and ask yourself, what is special about humanity? Look, you might get religious answers like humans have a soul or humans are created in the image of God. You know, Kant is not hostile to that, but he doesn't want to bring it in, right? He doesn't want to bring that in as a necessary, you know, assumption that we make. So Kant says, well, without getting into any talk about souls or that stuff, what can we do that other things can't? What can we do that, say, a cat or a dog or a horse or a pig can't do? You know, we feel, we have experiences, we can do that. Rocks and plants and stuff can't do that. But animals do that, right? But what makes us different than animals? And so for Kant would say, well, it's the fact that we can step back from our reasons, what we think we want to do, and ask ourselves whether they're good reasons or not, and then choose what are and aren't. Let me make that a little more concrete, flesh it out a little bit more. I'll give you guys an example. This is my example. I think I might have taken this from a friend of mine who, also uses it in his class. He was a former roommate of mine. Both talk about the same cat, but whatever. So years ago, when I was in grad school, one of my roommates had this cat, Mr. Whiskers. And Mr. Whiskers was, well, he wasn't a great cat. He was a solid C minus cat. Wasn't terribly friendly, you know, liked to get outside and then didn't know what to do once he was outside. Would have to chase him. He'd run outside and then be terrified by the outside. And it's like, yeah, kitty, you do this a lot. You don't want to go outside even though you think you do. Anyway, one of the many things that Mr. Whiskers would do that was kind of annoying was that he would scratch the couch. And so we decided it's like, okay, just negative conditioning, Psych 101 negative conditioning. We're going to get a squirt bottle, fill it up with water. Cats don't like water. They especially don't like to get squirted with water. I mean, who or what does? And whenever Mr. Whisker scratches the couch, we're going to shoot him with the squirt bottle. This didn't actually work, right? What happened is we would shoot Mr. Whiskers with the squirt bottle, and he would run behind the TV. And it got to the point, you could see him sitting there, and he knew, especially if he thought we were looking at him, you just seen his little kitty head. He knew the second he started scratching that couch, we were going to grab the squirt bottle and just, give him a couple good blasts of water, right? And you could just see it warring in the cat's head, this desire to scratch the couch, this urge to scratch the couch, and this other desire, other urge not to get, squirted with water, right? You could just see it warring in his little kitty head, right? And eventually what he would always do is he'd just start furiously scratching the couch. Now, contrast that with me being tempted to do something that I think I really shouldn't do, right? One thing I do that I really shouldn't is there's ice cream in the freezer. I'm tempted to eat ice cream for breakfast, right? Well, look, if I'm standing there in front of the freezer with my coffee, 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, whenever, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm looking at the ice cream and I'm tempted to eat it. It's not just that in my head what's going on is what goes on in Mr. Whisker's head. It's not like, well, ice cream, desire to eat ice cream, desire not to, and they just push and pull till one finally wins. I can take a step back. I can say, okay, I do want ice cream. Ice cream is delicious, especially if you put it with coffee. It's just a nice counterpoint, right? The really sweet ice cream with some bitter coffee. But then I think to myself, it's like, okay, if I do that in 2 hours or an hour, I might be queasy. Is it worth it? If I keep doing this, I'm going to, it's bad for my health. I might get another lecture from my doctor. And I might think to myself, beyond all of that, do I want to be the kind of person who has so little self-control that I eat ice cream for breakfast, right? And, I might say to myself, no, I don't. I don't want to have to suffer these consequences. And I also just want to be the kind of person who has enough self-control not to do something like this, right? That is way different than what's going on in Mr. Whisker's head, right? I mean, he can't have any of these thoughts unless there's a lot more going on in a cat's head than I've ever seen any evidence of. He is not thinking, well, I think I want to scratch the couch. Scratching the couch is nice, but then I'll get squirted and, do I really want to be the kind of cat who has so little self-control he can't stop scratching the couch even though he's going to get squirted with water? What does that say about me as a cat, right? He's not thinking that. In his brain, it really is just desires, urges, pressing back and forth in a pretty mechanical way. That is not what is going on in a human being's head. When you want to do something, you can always take a step back and say, do I have a good reason to do this or not? If you want to skip work, you think, well, what does that say about me as a person? Well, do I want to leave my coworkers in the lurch? Could I lie to my boss? He's been good to me. I can't just, pretend that I'm sick, so on and so forth, right? When you were thinking about, signing up to come to college or signing up for this particular class, you debated the reasons back and forth, reasons you had, reasons you didn't, decided what was and wasn't a good reason for you. So this is what Kant thinks makes human beings special. This ability to step back from our reasons, the desires, urges we have, and ask ourselves, well, do I really have a good reason to do this or not? And then make a decision whether or not you do. For Kant, you'll hear people talk about freedom of the will. That might be another way that we say human beings are special. Human beings have free will. Kant will 100% agree with that. But he'll say, well, talk about free will doesn't really tell you much in and of itself. You need to give an account of what it is, and free will is just this ability to decide what are and aren't good reasons for us to act. And this brings us to Kant's formula of humanity. Kant thinks the formula of humanity just kind of neatly is a result of this ability that human beings have. And the formula of humanity says you should always treat humanity as an end in itself and never as a mere means. Well, what does this mean? You want to be really clear here. Sometimes a single word is important, and this is a case where a single word is very important. Kant has no problem with treating people as a means. It would be crazy. It would be a weird theory that did, right? We use people as means all the time, right? If you get a cup of coffee in the morning from Starbucks or wherever, you've used the barista as a means, right? When you mail a letter, you use all the people working for the postal service who are going to handle your letter as a means. You are currently using me as a means to understand Kant. And I'm using all of you as a means to get paid because you pay tuition and that's what funds my salary. Oh my God, isn't it a terrible world, right? Kant would not have a problem with any of this. What he has a problem with is using someone as a mere means. And now think about it this way, right? What makes it okay that you are using me as a means to understand Kant and that I'm using you as a means to get paid, right? Well, it's because we've all agreed, right? The school sends out a contract every year. You will teach X number of classes for Y dollars. I sign on the line, send it back. I have agreed to teach these classes. School says to me, we'll give you this amount of money and benefit, health insurance, all this other stuff, retirement. Is this a good enough reason for you to teach classes? And I can decide whether it is or not. I always decide it is because this is actually a really good job. I actually like teaching. You know, I wouldn't do it for free, right? There's other things I would be doing. Sorry, I hope you guys aren't insulted. I think it's a great job. I do like doing it. But, I do need to get paid, right? Or I do be doing other things, right? But I do think, what I'm paid and the benefits I get are a very good reason to do this. I agree. So you are not using me as a mere means. You're using me as a means, but that's fine because I have a chance to agree or disagree, agree or turn it down. Think about what's important here. The school gives me a reason to teach these classes or a bunch of reasons, and I get to decide, are these good reasons for me to do this or not, right? When you signed up for this class, you could take it or leave it, right? You see all these benefits. Are they a good enough reason to sign up for this class and spend your time and pay your money? If you didn't think so, well, hope you wouldn't be listening to me because you wouldn't sign up. You can choose whether to do this or not. Now, contrast that, and this is a really out there case. Philosophers love bizarre examples. Most do. I am a little hesitant to use them, but whatever, I think it works here, right? Imagine if for some bizarre reason, someone held a gun to my head and said, I'm going to shoot you unless you go explain Kant to some people. So I don't want to be shot. I really can't, it's an offer, as they say in the mobster movies, it's an offer you can't refuse. Do it or we shoot you. I go explain Kant. Then the person is so happy. They're like, well, here's a bag of money, right? What they've done, even if they benefit me in the end, even if they give me the money in the end, what they have done is using me as a mere means because I never had a chance to say no. I didn't have a real chance to say no. I mean, look, if they're going to give me money, I don't know why they would do this, right? But the point is, they never gave me a chance to consider their offer. Is this enough money to go do this? Because of that, they use me as a mere means. They are not respecting my ability to decide what are and aren't good reasons for me to do something. Or think about Kant's own examples. The lying promise is probably the best example. If you were honest, or we'll not make it you, let's just say the person lying to a friend to get money, if he or she were honest, she'd just say, look, I am really hard up. I need $500 or $1,000 or whatever. I know you have it. I don't really want to pay you back. So it would really, really help me out if you were just to give me $500. I would be forever grateful. Give me $500. Don't you want to help a friend out? And the person could decide whether or not that was a good enough reason to give their $500 up, right? Help a friend out, get eternal gratitude. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? For most people, unless they're extremely generous or unless you're a really good friend, they might not do that. Probably say, well, why can't you pay me back eventually? But that would be fine. That'd be awkward, right, to ask somebody in that way, but Kant wouldn't think it's immoral because they can say yes or no. Now, imagine, on the other hand, the person lies to their friend. In that case, they are not letting their friend decide whether their real reason they just want $500 is a good one. They're trying to trick him or her. They're trying not to let them make this decision about what is and isn't a good reason for them. And now that would be true even if the person trying to get money out of a friend is a terrible liar. Even if the friend instantly sees through it and it's like, oh, the schmuck, they're never going to pay me back. He thinks he's clever, right? Even if they saw through it, and even if they were nice enough, it's like, all right, he's pathetic. I've got money. Here's $500. The person lying would not have successfully used someone as a mere means, but they tried to, right? And Kant would say when you try to use someone as a mere means, that is wrong. Even if the person sees through it and guesses what the real reason is, the liar is still trying to take their reason away from them. So that's what it is to use someone as a mere means. Pretty much every case when you lie to somebody, using them as a mere means. Or think of another example, right? Basically, treating someone as a mere means, you don't respect their ability to decide what are and aren't good reasons for them. Pretty much the clearest cases of this are when you lie to somebody or try to manipulate them, or when somebody uses force or threats to try to get somebody to do what they want. Let me go over one further example. And I think this is a good example because remember, I said that utilitarianism, one problem with utilitarianism is that it had trouble accounting for this distinction that most of us draw between doing something and letting it happen, right? And again, to take a slightly weird hypothetical case, be patient with me. I'm a little uncomfortable with weird cases, but I do think it makes a point. It seems perfectly justifiable if you are in charge of distributing organs, and there's not enough to go around, as there never are, if you have to choose between a healthy person who doesn't have any lifestyle factors that are going to harm their chances of successful organ transplant, it does not seem at all wrong to prefer that person to give him the kidney or whatever and not give it to somebody who has other health problems, or even, let's say, as an alcoholic or something, in ways that might damage the kidney and make their chances worse, right? It's tragic, but nobody would say that you've done something evil. It's just a tragic choice you have to make in the world with these things, right? Give it to the person who has the best chances of life. But notice that another very similar case, as I said before, would be we practically all think, maybe some people don't think this, and I really just always, when I have that, I'm like, oh God, please don't be going into medicine. But look, if you have a person who has a healthy lifestyle, good prospects if they get a donor kidney, and somebody who is an alcoholic whose health is failing, but they haven't wrecked their kidney yet, you could not murder the person who has the kidney and take his kidney and give it to the person who needs it. You couldn't even drug him and take it. All of that would be immoral, right? And for a utilitarian, that's just really hard to account for, right? The end process in both cases is, well, one person lives, one person dies, and the person who has better prospects, a better prognosis lives. The utilitarian, they don't like this result because they know it's weird, and most of us think it's just bizarre. But they have a hard time accounting for what's different about the cases. Kantians don't. Kantians can say, look, in the first case, you don't use the person you let die as a mere means. You don't help him because to help him, you would have to choose not to help somebody who has better chances, but You are not using him as a mere means. You are not doing anything to him. In the second case, when you kill somebody to take their organs, you are very much using them as a mere means, right? Almost can't think of a better picture of using someone as mere means. You're just using them as an organ bank, right? Kantians, with the formula of humanity, do a much better job accounting for the doing, letting happen distinction than do utilitarians. You can think of other cases of this. It's one point where Kantianism is in a much stronger position than utilitarianism. Okay. So you guys might be asking yourself, well, we have these two formulations. How do they relate to each other? I'll talk about that in the next lecture.